and constitutional law. She was appointed as United States District Judge for the Eastern and Western District of Kentucky in 1993 and elevated to Chief Judge of the Eastern District of Kentucky in 2007. The first female to hold either of these positions within the Commonwealth of Kentucky, she retired from the federal district bench in 2013. She serves as a committed and esteemed member of the Martin School Board of Visitors, which I'm very thankful for. And on a personal note, I can say without a doubt that Jennifer Kaufman is one of the most impressive people I've ever had the pleasure to encounter. She is incredibly smart, thoughtful, and compassionate. Let's welcome the Honorable Jennifer Kaufman as the speaker of our celebration for the 2020 and 21 graduates. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you very much. Thank you and good afternoon. What a day. I've given commencement speeches before, but I've never given 1 to 2 classes all at once. So thank you both classes for having me here. Thank you so much to Dr. Ron Zimmer, director of the Martin School, and to the faculty of the school, as well as to the classes of 2020 and 2021 for the honor of being your commencement speaker. Beyond the faculty and the graduates, I thank others who have made this event possible, those who prepared the room and the technology, as well as those who clean up afterward. I know that many hands go into such events at many levels, and we're grateful to everyone who makes today possible. In the words of a character from Anne Patchett's recent novel, The Dutch House, you graduates are stepping into the river that takes you forward. Before you step too far into that river, however, please take a few moments to consider where you've been and where you're going. To help you do that, I want to spend a few minutes telling you about my own experiences. I hesitate to give you advice, and I won't give you advice, but I will tell you what I've learned. Even though I don't know your varied backgrounds or your future plans, I know about my own adventures in that river that has taken me forward. Let me share a few of those adventures with you, and perhaps some will resonate with you. What is my life and work experience? What are the roles I've had? I've been a bank employee. I've been a librarian, a lawyer, a judge, a teacher, a retired person, and much of that time I have been a wife and a mother. What have I learned at each stage? Well, first, my foundations. From my parents and teachers, early teachers, I learned to value my mentors. My parents and teachers taught me early a work ethic, a love of words and reading, a love of learning. My mother was my first mentor. She taught me to read early. Before I ever went to school, I learned to read at her hand my cousin's 3rd grade books. She took us to the library weekly in the summer and loaded us up with books. She read so much, and even at the end of her life, she was thinking about words and reading. She was helping me with crossword puzzles. I can still see her in the hospital when I ask her for a word to think again, 10 letters, ticking it off on her elegant fingers and saying, reconsider. I can remember her saying to me, what are you reading? And I said, I was reading the book, Must You Go? I've forgotten the author's name, Must You Go? And it was about Harold Pinter and Antonia Fraser. And she said, Antonia Fraser, Mary Queen of Scots. And indeed, Antonia Fraser had written the historical novel, Mary Queen of Scots. Words were always in her mind. And from my father, I learned a strong work ethic, almost too strong. He would not play golf or have any other hobbies because he said, why play golf when you could be working? He loved to work, maybe too much. He lacked a work-life balance. So I learned that balance not from him, but later in life. But I did learn how to work hard from him. Besides my parents, my teachers were my early mentors. I attended small rural schools, the same school my father attended. I had some of the same teachers my parents had through the first 8 grades. Throughout high school, my teachers took an interest in me. They encouraged me, they encouraged excellence, and they encouraged experiences beyond the classroom. In fact, thanks to the encouragement of a teacher and the wisdom of my parents, I spent one entire summer in high school at a math and science institute at Florida State University, an experience which definitively shaped my life. Why even mention my roots at this stage, or at least the good parts of them? You notice I didn't tell you anything bad. All of us have a little bad, don't we? Because I never want to forget where I started. Your roots may be different than mine. You may have faced different challenges. Whatever they are, those foundations are always with you, the good and the bad. You learn from both. You learn, or at least I have learned, to seek the positive, minimize and avoid the negative. No life is perfect. No one wades into that river that takes you forward without overcoming a few barriers. And with that foundation, those roots, I went on to learn lessons in various employment situations. My first job was a summer job creating a filing system and organizing long ignored papers hidden away upstairs in a spare room at a small town bank. Not exactly what you'd call a glamorous job. My lesson from that summer was no matter what you do, it isn't trivial, especially if you're serving other people. Work hard, honor the customers if you want to move forward. And later, same job, a different summer, the customer is always right. And this lesson, be kind to everyone you meet on the way up. Remember, those same people could be kicking you when you're on the way back down. Said a bit more graphically, those were my father's words. You can imagine exactly how he put it. My first boss was my father, as you might have imagined, and he drilled those lessons into me. I was not permitted to learn those lessons on my own. He said those things to me over and over and over, ad nauseum, so that I would learn what he wanted me to learn from those 2 summers at the bank. I learned lessons from other jobs I've had as well. I was in the private practice of law as a trial lawyer after law school, where I found another mentor, my first law partner, who taught me by his own intelligent, honorable example, and in the form of stories, many of them humorous, of which I never tired of hearing, who taught me that good judgment is often more important than knowing the finer points of the law, who spoke only good of me to other people while privately helping me smooth out my mistakes. And there were many. And who treated others with the same respect he wanted and deserved, and never, ever took shortcuts to excellence. Another lesson I learned in that part of my career was the art of visualization. Do you think this is the first time I've given this speech? I've practiced it twice this week to see how it sounded, to check my transitions, to see how long it went. I learned that early on. I imagined myself being successful, whether it was during a closing argument at trial, talking to a jury in opening statements, or making a successful presentation, talking to myself, seeing myself mentally, in the shower, in front of a mirror, everywhere. In each situation, I worked on developing what I like to call a sense of where you are, so that I could feel and act as though I'd been there before. That phrase is not my phrase. I said I like to use it, but it's not my phrase. It is not used nonchalantly. It was used by the author John McPhee in his article, then his book called A Sense of Where You Are, in describing the stellar basketball play of Bill Bradley, who was then at Princeton, but went on to be a Rhodes Scholar, played for the New York Knicks, and then was a United States Senator. That article said, that athlete, said McPhee in his article, knew at all times where he was in relationship to the basketball, the goal, and his teammates, thus a sense of where you are. It's worth thinking about, and I encourage you to read that book, even if you don't like sports. How do you get a sense of where you are, to see yourself as the successful person you want to be? Well, it starts simply with the way you present yourself. I teach an internship course at the UK Rosenberg College of Law. As one of my students recently said, she dresses for her internship as though she already has the job she wants. But it's more than the way we dress, isn't it? As my grandson Elijah said, after my husband and I showed up in croquet whites, all white attire for a croquet match, a family croquet match, they may look like croquet professionals, but they don't play like croquet professionals. Well, you have to play like a professional. You can't just look the part. I learned that for me, having that sense of where you are means not only dressing the part, it means knowing my work inside out, working hard, cultivating relationships, and being prepared. I learned that competence and skill require so much time and effort at the beginning of my career before it becomes second nature in mid-career and later. In fact, early on, someone told me that you know right out of law school how to make an argument, how to write a brief, how to read the law, but it takes at least 5 years to be a lawyer. I chafed at that at the time because I thought I was pretty good, but now I understand what that means. Earlier, I mentioned my mentors, but it has also helped me to have role models, people I didn't know well enough to call mentors. I was asked last summer for my thoughts for a local video. I was asked my thoughts on the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I took the opportunity to think about 2 interactions I had with her while I was on the bench and to research her life just a bit. Only then did I realize what a good role model she was for me, not in terms of politics, not in terms of writing, not in terms of her opinions, but far beyond that. I met Justice Ginsburg twice. The first was in the summer of 1994. I had been on the bench in the district court for a year. She had been on the Supreme Court for a year. We had a dinner at the Supreme Court and we met at a cocktail party beforehand. The person who introduced us left quickly after introducing us. I'm 5'7.5". She is barely 5 feet tall. It was noisy. She pauses often during the conversation. It was a very awkward conversation, punctuated by those long silences. I came away, frankly, unimpressed with her personally. Who am I to say? The second occasion I met her was in 2010, maybe 2011. I was a chief judge, as Dr. Zimmer said, and a group of women chief judges, maybe 15, 20 of us, met with her along a conference table in the Supreme Court in a conference room. I found a totally different person. It was a quieter atmosphere. She still paused often, but she was thinking. She had answers to give to our questions, and she wanted to think before speaking. She had questions to ask us, and she wanted to consider our answers. So what did she affirm in retrospect? I didn't appreciate it at the time, but what did she affirm in retrospect as a role model for me? First, to be comfortable with silence. Think about your answer. Think before talking. Listen to what other people say. Ponder their comments before you speak in response. Second, her humility shone through. No matter how inane our answers to her questions, she found something to say to elevate each one of us. Third, how important writing is in my field, perhaps in any field, but I learned from her how important writing it is, and that you can learn it from many sources. She went to Cornell, as I recall, and one of her professors was the literary giant Nabokov, who wrote Lolita. And it's a classic novel, and he had an elegance of style she strove to emulate. So she learned her writing skills, not from lawyers, not from judges, but from, as I said, an esteemed writer of fiction. Fourth, she was a natural-born teacher. She had the art of explaining things to others, a skill that I have needed at all levels of my work. But finally, and most of all, she taught me not to get too caught up in my own excellence. She wrote on the importance of timing. Before going on to the Supreme Court, she argued 6 cases at the Supreme Court, and she won 5 of them, a phenomenal record by any standard. About that success, she said, how fortunate I was to be alive and a lawyer, at the time the courts were receptive to arguments about sex discrimination. The same is true for me. How fortunate I was to be alive and a lawyer at the time when the President of the United States asked for a judicial nomination and Senator Wendell Ford decided it was time to have a woman on the federal bench. You can make all the 5-year plans, 10-year plans, life plans you want, but timing is everything. So those are some of the lessons I've learned during my career, but it isn't only the jobs which have taught me life lessons. It's my personal and family life as well. One obstacle I have had to overcome is being a woman in a man's profession. How did I overcome that obstacle or hindrance? One approach is obvious: work harder, have better credentials, so you'll be taken more seriously. But the not so obvious is the personal relationship you have at home. I've been married for many, many years. In fact, I've been married for almost 52 years. So long, in fact, that my husband likes to joke that he can remember being born, he just can't remember being single. True. He thinks he made that joke up. The way I have approached our personal life so I could succeed in my career as well as at home, I decided you have to create the relationship and create the partner you deserve. Now, I could talk about that in much detail for several hours, but suffice to say that my husband and I have worked jointly on that for many years. And sometimes that river that we stepped into has taken us forward, and sometimes it's taken us backward, but it all worked out. Our most important conversation It was after graduate school, before we embarked on our careers, before we even took the bar exam and the dental exam, I forgot what it's called. One of us asked, how will we define success in non-monetary terms? That conversation has shaped our life together, our family, and our careers. I remember the question, but I don't remember our answers that day. But we talked for several hours. And we have referred back to that pivotal conversation often over the years as we move forward in our careers, our lives, our family, and even for guidance in raising our children who are now 37 and 40. We sometimes talk about it even today. We were and remain determined to be defined by far more than the money we made or had. One last story. My goals were reflected, my life goals and career goals. Oh, sorry, that's my microphone. My life goals and career goals were reflected in a kind and thoughtful and generous tribute to me by a treasured colleague when I retired. His remarks, as I say, reflected my goals and were probably far more generous than I really deserved. First, he said, I had a laser focus. Now, some would call that being stubborn and single-minded. Guilty. I had 3 goals and only 3 written on a Post-it note that was at all times on my desk. That note was there for anyone to see at all times. The contents of the note changed and varied from time to time, but I was determined to keep my vision big and to stick to 3 simple goals at a time. Second, he said, I was respected by everyone from top to bottom. Now note, he said I was respected, not liked necessarily, which is fine with me. But the top to bottom part was especially important to me. He and I shared a mutual desire to count the custodians and staff as our colleagues, as well as the other judges. And I like to believe that our actions toward those custodians and staff reflected that mutual value. Third, he called me an empowering leader. Remember that Post-it note I mentioned, or those Post-it notes? I made sure everyone who was part of implementing my goals knew what those goals were. And I did not micromanage that work. I didn't care how they got to that goal, but I had the goal in mind. Finally, this is probably my favorite part. He also compared me to Barry Sanders. I don't know if you know who Barry Sanders is, but Barry Sanders was a famous athlete. As I recall, he went to Oklahoma State, maybe won the Heisman, played for Detroit, I think. But the most important part is he left football when he was on top, to the chagrin of many, many people. It was my desire to leave the bench when I was at the pinnacle and not to stay too long. I had seen too many judges do just that, stay too long. You see it in every profession. Think about it. You lose your filter, you lose your edge. I just think you lose a lot. You have to know when it's time to step aside or step into an adjunct role, like being an adjunct professor and making speeches like this, and let younger people take over. Whether those accolades he gave me were true or not is not the point. The point is that my dear colleague recognized my goals for my own career, and I could not have articulated them more accurately than he did. You all, the classes of 2020 and 2021, are indeed stepping into the river that takes you forward. I see you in your future lives, and I thank you for those future lives, future accomplishments, future contributions to our life and culture. As one faculty member and board member combined recently, a board member of the Martin School, reminded me recently, you all chose this particular career path because of your desire to serve, your desire to contribute to good governance, civic leadership, and public and nonprofit service. Congratulations and thank you for choosing this as your life's work. Go forward and don't step timidly into that river that takes you forward. Wade into it briskly and boldly, confident in your abilities and your openness to the lessons you will learn along the way. Thank you so much for having me here today and for your attention. Good luck.
So before Jennifer steps away, I did want to give her a gift for her great words. And while she's opening that, I just want to say a few things.
Like alcohol.
So as I mentioned, Jennifer is on our Board of Visitors. And I have to say, she is the board member that pushes us the most to be the best we can.
Oh my goodness.
So I would say the same thing about today. She gave you words to be the best you can and do that.
Thank you so much. This
Yeah.
is great. And I may have a little bit of that this afternoon.
That'd be great.
Oh, microphone.
No problem. Okay, again, thank you,
Thank you.
Judge Kaufman, for those good words. All right, so now we're going to get a student's perspective, and hopefully he'll be kind to our faculty and staff, and as he makes a few comments. So today we are going to have Jacob Jansen speaking on behalf of this year's graduates. So Jacob, if you want to make your way down. Jacob is an MPA student, is originally from Nicholasville, Kentucky, so nearby, where he attended Lexington Catholic High School. He received a bachelor's degree in a double major of philosophy, politics, and the public, and in economics from Xavier University as magna cum laude honors. And on a personal note, I'd have to say Jacob is an enthusiastic and really likable student, so I'm really looking forward to his comments here, and I'm hoping he's kind to me as well. Jacob, it's all yours. Oh, you're going to have to use the mic. And then you have to turn. I'm still giving instructions as a faculty.
Okay, works. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Zimmer. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Jacob Jansen. And I'm honored to follow Judge Kaufman. Thank you very much for speaking today. I'm very grateful to be standing here in front of you all. It is a sign not only of having successfully completed this program, but also that procrastinators can, in fact, succeed. I want to congratulate all my fellow graduates today, both the class of 2020 and the class of 2021. The hard work and long nights have officially resulted in being handed the degrees which each of us have pursued over the past few years. While admittedly, I struggled initially to come up with a theme to this speech, I figured it out while sitting in traffic on I-64 on Tuesday, and I was struck with the word persistence. Today's ceremony is a celebration of the persistence in each of us. We were presented with a challenging transition in our academic lives last March that affected us well beyond campus, yet here we are. Time always seems to move fast when the deadline is approaching, yet the last 14 months alone seem to have lasted a decade with how much has occurred, both in the Martin School and in the world, and we persisted through all of it. Some of us struggled with our own actual professional work, with the homework. Others started their own families, but we worked through it and we made it to the finishing line today. When writing this speech, I was brought back to August 21st, 2019, when many of us met for the first time. Thankfully, I had embraced my sense of fashion that day as I did today, and I wore a bow tie. And that was a sign to my now friend Wesley that I was good people. And so I was at least able to strike up one conversation. But soon, one conversation with him led to several more. And by the end of the day, I found myself at Goodfellas in the Distillery District, enjoying a few drinks with the people that I now know as my friends. What started off as reading and eventual rereading of name tags turned into awkward exchanges, and now 2 years later has developed into friendships that will cross state and international borders upon our moving forward from UK. My theme of persistence brings to mind a specific moment in the classroom in PA 631, Public Financial Management, when my classmates and I had a rather impassioned discussion on what truly defines a public good, all following the semester's first exam. And while I would ask everyone in here to take a moment to consider whether a library can be considered public good in economic terms, the real point lies in that I felt connected with my colleagues as we collectively took part in a civil debate with our professor. Each side advocated well, and while one side ultimately lost, no spoilers, a noticeable connection had been formed in the classroom, and it too has persisted to this day. I can't help but be thankful for Res Publica, especially my class's officers, Adam, Katie, and Jack. They, alongside the officers before them, helped curate several events that helped bring us closer together. While we weren't able to have Keeneland tailgates as much as we would have liked, you still presented us the opportunity to establish really fond memories, like learning how to cook shakshuka with Meredith. And I can confirm that I did actually successfully cook my dish because my parents, who I shared my leftovers with, are alive and in attendance today. So thank you to Meredith for teaching that class. But they also planned other events like the therapeutically sawing and slashing down of honeysuckle and Ravens Run. And I think that that was a really cool opportunity to give back to the committee at to the community, to the Lexington community. And they also helped plan various happy hours throughout our time here that kept us connected, even though we were certainly not in the classroom and divided. To say the least, the community here at the Martin School is excellent, and I'm privileged to have been able to experience it firsthand. From the first day I met our now former director, Dr. Toma, it was clear to me that this was no ordinary academic community. It was a place that believed in the principle of helping one's neighbor. That feeling arose several times throughout orientation day, as we heard from both current and former students who confirmed that such a culture extended beyond the classroom and beyond Patterson office tower. It revealed itself most prominently at our alumni dinner, where the ties to the Martin School seemed to surpass every social barrier, most notably even the politics. There that night, I even had the pleasure of enjoying Lexington's finest drink, a peanut butter and jelly shot from the Chevy Chase Inn. Inside and outside of the classroom, the Martin School was and will continue to be. I want to acknowledge and thank our professors, faculty, and staff for having exhibited that commitment to helping others throughout our time here. Whether in person or online, they made sure that we were taken care of and on the right track. Such efforts on their part reveal how the Martin School itself has persisted for 45 years and continues to expand. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues from the class of 2020. I'm sorry you all were not able to celebrate as you normally would have, but I'm glad that you were able to join us today. And at this time, it is important to note that as of March 2020, it was the class of 2021, not the class of 2020, that was the superior trivia team at Mellow Mushroom on Wednesday nights. And at this point, that title can no longer be taken away from us. Lastly, I want to acknowledge my Korean colleagues here through the Martin School's International Public Policy and Management Institute. They've not only made the difficult transition to attend school in the middle of their careers, but also packed up their families and came to Lexington, Kentucky, which I now have come to understand is a lot different from their hometowns in Korea. I'm so appreciative of the time I've gotten to spend with them because there's so much to learn from them as business professionals and as friends. I look forward to the day when I'll be able to travel to South Korea and say that I'm just visiting my friends, Mike, Jae, Hyungchul, and Juno. I wish you all the best of luck as you all return. And I'm excited that Juno is staying with us as a PhD and that he's starting his own family here. I'm sorry you're not here with us today, Juno, but I'm sure the baby will look great in UK blue. With that said, I want to again say congratulations to everybody here. The challenges were great, but we proved greater. We persisted through quite the gauntlet and made it out the other end. So here's to us. We finished our journey here, and we're ready to excel in the outside world. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Jacob. I really appreciate those words. And it's always really fun to hear from the students' perspective and to hear about some of the fun times we never knew about at Mellow Mushroom or other places. It makes us feel even like, oh, this is a fun place. All right. So now we're going to get to the degrees candidates, and it's my privilege to recognize all the degree candidates and share in their success. Rebecca Meeks, you want to go ahead and come up, Rebecca? Our graduate student affairs officer will first announce the doctoral candidates during this time. And during this time, we'll get to see our faculty hood our students, and that sometimes can be fun. In the past, Dr. Toma has, I think, hooded people as tall as 6'4". And I'll just say she's shorter than that. And so that can be some fun. And she does have a tall student again this year. Then Rebecca will announce graduates of the master's and certificate programs. She will first start with the virtual graduates. And if all goes well, we'll show a picture of each graduate on the screen. Then we will announce the in-person graduates. And this is my final instruction to the students. I had you in capstone, so I'm giving you one more instruction. I'll be behind the table. I'll be putting down the degree, and you can come by and pick them up, okay? So that's my final instruction to you. See if we get an A on this one. After announcing the graduates, Rebecca will recognize the Pi Alpha Alpha members, the National Honorary for the Public Administrations. So I'll let Rebecca take over from here.
Thank you, Dr. Zimmer. So first, we're going to recognize the graduates attending virtually. 2020 and 2021 PhD in Public Policy and Administration graduates are Chin Chen, PhD in Public Policy, with a dissertation titled Home Rule, Local Autonomy, and Municipal Government Behavior. Hakyun Lee, with a dissertation titled Essays on Economic Development Policies. Jae-Bing Nguyen, with a dissertation titled Evidence-Based Approach to Drug Crisis. Jinsol Park, with a dissertation titled Two Essays on Government Devolving Fiscal Authority to Lower Level Actors. And Andrew Sullivan, with a dissertation, Collaborative Competition in Homeless Services, 3 essays on federal local partnerships. For the Master of Public Policy, Ryan Brown, Vin Dow, William Clay Fannin, Jillian Frost, Juno Gian. For the Masters of Public Administration, Elizabeth Adams, Caitlin Batliner, Jacob Blevins, Sandra Broadus, Megan Combs, Asia Croto, Sydney Geiger, Justin Lawson, William Ryan Pennington, Jennifer Sutton, Jason Thomas, Shelby Spencer Tungate, Matthew Westling, Adam Blevins, Hannah Harrison, Taylor Johnston, Myung-Gu Lee, Austin Sprinkles, Alexandra Sutphin. For the graduates in the Master of Public Financial Management, Chris Glasser, Aaron Clarer, Sean McKiernan, Andrew Wells, Anitra Austin, Mary Moore, and Jason Schlafer. For their certificates in nonprofit management and the certificate in public financial management, Sandra Broadus, Rebecca Booth, Lauren Brown, and Meredith Feartag. Jacob Blevins, Sarah Boakland, Megan Combs, Kelly Doctor, Megan Eater, Aaron Clarer, Amber Moreland, Jacob Most, Patricia Murray, Kevin Ryan, and Alice Williams. Sadie Barton, Sean Boyle, Michelle Cooper, Luke Fries, Paul Lavinia, Andrew Pashawan, Sally Porter, and Patrick Welsh. Now I'm going to ask for the first row of graduates to stand. And I'm going to ask for Dr. Agarwal to come up here and join us.
Rebecca. So I'm pleased to announce my 3 PhD students that I will hood. In terms of the procedure, if you guys have families here and they want to come down and get pictures, feel free to come down. I will call each of you up. I'll hood you. And then I have about a minute description of each of your dissertations. And I've got you all an inscribed copy of Slemrod and Keene's new book. So for you to engage in reading. So I'll start now with first, I'll just go in order here. So first is Jawad Shah, who's receiving his PhD in public policy, and he'll be starting as a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Oxford. Congratulations, Jawad. This way. Jawad, why don't you stand out down there? And then the next is Himawan Saputro, was receiving both his MPP in public policy and his PhD in public policy. And he'll be returning to the Indonesian Revenue Department following his PhD. Congratulations, Himawan. Thanks, Himawan. And finally, we have my PhD student in economics, Kenneth Tester, who will be starting as a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Exeter. Okay, just very quickly, I want to just say something about each of their dissertations so that you know what they're working on. But just as a group, let me say this is a really phenomenal group of PhD students. The biggest compliment that I can give them is, you know, they're really great students when you leave their meetings with them, and you feel like they teach you more than you've taught them. And that's how I feel about all three of my PhD students. This is an amazingly strong group of students who are going to be very successful at changing policy through their research. So just very quickly, so Jawad, his work is on developing countries and taxes in Pakistan. He uses the universe of VAT returns to study the effect of policies like enforcement, what happens when we introduce technology to enforce taxes. How does that change the amount of reporting? And lo and behold, there's massively large effects. This has really important incentives for the design of tax policy. So Jawad is, I'm sure, going to go on to do great things. Himwan also studies taxation in developing countries, working with the universe of business tax returns and individual income tax returns, again, focusing on kind of compliance issues and the role of tax amnesties. And in my favorite paper, how when you create a special office for high wealth individuals, that can actually have unintended consequences, like the special high wealth office for auditing actually encourages taxpayers to hide more of their money, even though they're scrutinized in greater detail. Why? Because these millionaires know how to bargain, and they know if you start with an opening bid that's low, you're likely to get off in a better situation than otherwise. And finally, Kenneth, who does work on regional tax policy, works on issues of how state employment taxes affect where people work and how regional tax credits given to particular low-income areas. How does that affect after those tax credits disappear, right? So we oftentimes get obsessed with, well, hey, we're going to give these regions policies, but if the federal government takes away those policies, we don't really know how that will affect them. And he provides great evidence to that. So it's been a pleasure to work with all three of these PhD students, and I look forward to watching your successes, because now I'm at that stage in my career where your successes are more important than mine. So I look forward to seeing you do great things in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. Now I'm going to ask Dr. Eugenia Toma to join me on the stage for the hooding of her PhD advisee.
And I would like to introduce Dr. Corey Curl.
Look down here for a second for a picture.
It has been my incredible pleasure to work with Corey over many years. Corey started in the Martin School as an MPA student and completed her MPA, was a very successful professional, went to Tennessee before she decided that she wanted to come back to Kentucky, but she was an advisor to the governor of Tennessee. She was a policy advisor there, involved in many, many important issues for that state. Washington, D.C. stole her from Tennessee, and she was a consultant in Washington, D.C. for educational organizations of nonprofit types. And then finally, She realized that in spite of this incredible success she had, that her real passion was her research and being a PhD student. And she came back, and now we're happy today to say that this is Dr. Corey Curl. And as many of you know, we are very pleased that she has chosen to stay at the Martin School and be the first director of our new undergraduate program in public policy that was launched just this year. So we are grateful to Corey for all she has given us.
Hey, before you go, Corey, I think your husband wants a picture with you and Gina.
Oh. An expert in where teachers go, where in terms of preparation programs. She's an expert on if the state introduces the public, does it do what it's supposed to? Does it actually improve outcomes? If you want to know more about those sorts of things, ask Dr. Cole.
All right, so now I will read off the names for the Master in Public Policy, Master in Public Administration, Master in Public Financial Management, and the graduate certificates in Nonprofit Management and Public Financial Management. So Master, the 2020 and 2021 graduates who are in attendance with us: Amanda Buck, Cameron Childress, Catherine Elizabeth Conair, the 2020 and 2021 Master in Public Administration graduates is Paul Anthony Allen, who also earned a graduate certificate in Public Financial Management. Joseph Black with a graduate certificate in Nonprofit Management. Kayla Carter. Robert Fenton. Jacob Jansen with a graduate certificate in Nonprofit Management. Chongin Lee. Young Cho Lee. Catherine Loosecamp. Michaela Manier. Wesley Scott with a graduate certificate in Nonprofit Management. James Tatum. Jacob Tony with a graduate certificate in Public Financial Management. The 2020 and 2021 Master in Public Financial Management graduates: Farishta McCourt, and Christiana Odubena. Let's give a round of applause to all of our graduates. Now I will read off the names of those who were inducted into Pi Alpha Alpha. Pi Alpha Alpha is a national honorary for students in public affairs or public administration programs in a NASPA member school, and they must maintain a 3.7 GPA. In 2020, we inducted 9 students, and in 2021, 15. 2020 inductees were Paul Anthony Allen, and please stand to be recognized. Ryan Brown, Vin Dow, William Clay Fannin, Sydney Geiger, William Ryan Pennington, Jennifer Sutton, James Tatum, Shelby Spencer Tungate. The inductees for Pi Alpha Alpha for 2021, Adam Blevins, Kayla Carter, Jacob Jansen, Taylor Johnston, Myung-Gu Lee, Catherine Loosecamp, Wesley Scott, Alexandra Supfin, Austin Sprinkles, Michaela Manier, Joseph Black, Young Chul Lee, Robert Fenton, Hannah Harrison, Chong Yen Lee, and Jacob Tony. Congratulations.
Thank you to Rebecca for taking on that task of reading so many names and doing it so well. Okay, so we're going to do a few awards now. And we'll announce the Daniel R. Reedy Award for the best capstone for each master's program, and then the best student for each program. Probably, as you know, from talking to the students, the capstone is kind of this culminating event at the end of their program, and they put a lot of effort into it. So we are pleased to recognize individual winners in that as well. Winners, when we announce to you, please stand to be recognized. Stay standing and hold applause to the end. I should note that a number of our winners couldn't be here, especially the 2020 graduates, and a few others had to work, so they couldn't be here today, but I'll go through the names here. So for MPA Best Student and the 2020 graduate is William Pennington. The MPA Dean Reedy Award is Caitlin Betliner. The MPP Best Student Award is William Fannin. The MPP Dean Reedy Award is Ryan Brown. And the MPFM Best Student is Sean McCarnan. And I think they may be virtually participating, but not here. So congratulations to you. We'll next do the 2021 graduates. Again, awards. If you could stand when I read your name and remain standing, and we'll give you applause at the end. So the MPA Best Student Award goes to Adam Blevins. He is not here today because he has to work, so he's already hard at work after his degree. The MPA Dean Reedy Award for Best Capstone is Jack Tony. So Jack, could you stand? MPP Best Student Award is Amanda Buck. The MPP Dean Reedy Award for Best Capstone is Cameron Childress. The MPFM Best Student Award for Usta McCourt. And the MPFM Best Capstone Award is Mary Moore. So let's give them a round of applause. Okay, so we'll have some closing remarks here. On behalf of the faculty, let me convey our congratulations to the graduates and let you know how proud we are of you. There is a need throughout the nation for leadership, research, and management skills that you acquired during your stay at the Martin School. You are joining an impressive group of individuals who are and will be doing interesting and important work in universities, public, nonprofit, and private organizations. Graduates, please stay in touch because we want to hear about your successes as you go forward. Of course, these graduates did not accomplish these goals alone. They had the support of you. Our tradition is to recognize those who helped them. Would family members and friends stand up so the graduates and faculty can recognize you? So please stand up if you supported the graduates, and let's give them a round of applause. Okay, one final comment I would make. I'm actually a graduate of the Martin School. I don't know how many people know that or not, but one of the things I could say from my time in the Martin School is some of my best lifelong friends have been in the Martin School. And today, for the next hour or so, this might be the last time you all get to see each other together. So enjoy it for the next hour when we have our reception. Talk to each other, try to keep in touch. I think you'll really appreciate the relationships you built at the Martin School. So a few logistic issues. First, students and faculty, if you could stay in the auditorium, we're going to work on logistics of getting some speakers. We'll probably do it outside, but let's just convene here. And second, for everyone else, we're going to have a reception, and it's going to be just outside of the Student Center. Kind of if you look down at the kind of courtyard, we're going to have some refreshments there, so you could go there. So for all our graduates, I want to say congratulations and best of luck. And that adjourns our graduation celebration. Thank you.